All right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back. Margin call, there's no need for that. Big pet peeve of mine. Don't come back and try to prove that you're right about something on the market. Good morning, everyone. How we doing? Welcome back to the stream. I love you too, Zay. Do I trade right out of the gates only when he sees a retest? Usually I like to wait, a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, wait for a retest to form. But if something forms early morning, I'll definitely look for it. But it's not the same every day, of course. Yesterday was a good example of that, actually, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I had a plan coming into yesterday. It didn't line up, and so I missed that early morning downside, unfortunately. If you guys caught some of that early morning downside, congratulations. And where did we drop off from? That 4170 level on the ES we talked about. Right before the end of the stream yesterday, we were talking about how be careful on the upside, right? Just because that CPI was up, just because we moved up on CPI, into supply. We still have to respect our supply levels. So very nice supply rejection yesterday of that 4170 on the ES. That was insane. Very clean. Fortunately, just didn't catch it. So it is what it is, right? It's going to happen. Part of trading. Not going to catch every move out there. Of course, I wish I did. It would have been a really beautiful day. But hey, that's definitely part of the game. That's definitely part of the game. But we'll walk through it all. We'll walk through sort of what my game plan was yesterday and how my game plan actually caused me to miss a good setup. But like we said, I was talking to the chat yesterday. I'd rather stick to my game plan and miss out on a trade than not stick to my game plan, take a trade when I don't agree with it, and then lose on it, right? So it is it's tough. It's a mental battle, right? It's a mental battle. That's the big thing. Mental battles. We'll wait a few more minutes for some people to jump in here, and then we'll get started. Hope you guys had a good day yesterday. Hope you're having a good morning today. Should be an interesting day. We got PPI, Producer Price Index. We got jobless claims. So we got some more economic data to be watching out for here in the pre-market. Some key rejections are coming in right now on the Nasdaq off a key 13,000 level. So this is interesting, just watching this as we speak. That's going to be a big level to watch today, 13,000 on the NQ. Clearly rejecting here as the market trades in the pre-market here. So definitely key. But of course, technicals, we'll have to see how they hold up during this major economic event. PPI, jobless claims. I don't want to say major, but an important one, right? One that's definitely going to potentially move the market today, this morning at 8:30 a.m. So in about 26 minutes. All right. Let's go ahead and start. Why not? So let's start by pulling up the economic calendar because we know we got some stuff over there. Economic calendar here. Here it is. Pull it on up. All right. So today, CPI, I'm sorry, that was yesterday. Today, right? Producer Price Index, 830, PPI, core PPI, PPI year over year. All right. So this is all going to be right at 830. We'll see how this comes out, right? We'll see what the market reaction is on that. And then at the same time, we will be getting our jobless claims. The forecast is 235. Previous was 228. So they want jobless claims to go up, which is technically a bullish sign if jobless claims go up. So we'll see. Jobless claims forecast 235, previous 228. That is what we have today. Jobless claims PPI at 8:30. We'll see what the reaction is. Tomorrow, retail sales, import price index, some more Fed governor speaking. And that's pretty much it. Consumer sentiment, 10 a.m. But that's pretty much it for the rest of the week. All right. Next week, pretty light. Nothing really until really nothing next week. Just jobless claims. Pretty much the normal Thursday thing. Yeah. Nothing much on next week for the economic side. So this week was heavy, right? With CPI, PPI, jobless claims again, retail sales tomorrow. Next week, pretty light. All right, so that's that. Tesla, we'll talk a little bit about Tesla. Textbook supply rejection on Tesla yesterday. But there was one thing that kept me out of Tesla, which is, it's a learning lesson. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to say that I did a bad job on it. It definitely showed me a potential entry point. But there was one thing that I just did not like, and it kept me from getting in. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. Talk about how that I sort of missed that. Do we have earnings? What do we have on the earnings side tomorrow? Okay, yeah, you got some banks tomorrow. So you actually do have earnings starting a little bit. JP Morgan, so that's interesting. JP Morgan Chase, UNH, I think that's United Health Group, right? UNH, Citi, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, PNC. So yeah, you're starting to get some bank earnings. And whenever you see bank earnings, that means that earnings season is approaching, right? Banks always start out the earnings season. So yeah, JP Morgan tomorrow, Citi, Wells Fargo, some of the banks, some bigger banks reporting tomorrow. So yeah, whenever those banks start, we know that earnings season is approaching. Winter is coming. So Tesla, we'll talk about that one yesterday. Nvidia back at demand, this 264 demand. Let's keep an eye on this one. Microsoft and Meta. These things have been pretty strong, Microsoft and Meta. Some really strong outperformance on these two names. Really not breaking down yesterday with the overall market. I mean, they did move down a little bit, but Microsoft and Meta have been holding up pretty damn well. So worth a watch over there. Netflix 330 retest. Really nice retest 330 on Netflix. And for some reason, I'm not sure what. I don't know if you guys saw any news today, but Netflix is really pushing here in the pre-market, up about $6 a share. I did not see any news on it. Let me know if you guys see anything. But it is moving higher off this 330 level this morning. So interesting there. We're going to look at the XLF, check out some banks. Dollar. The dollar broke under a very interesting level this morning. Now, usually we have a reverse correlation with the dollar and equities. If the dollar moves lower, typically you'll see equities have some strength. Sometimes we don't see that correlation, the reverse correlation there, but we'll see if that happens today. The dollar did break a pretty key level this morning. Let me see if it's still under it. Okay, it just actually rejected that level as we speak here as well. So this is interesting here on the dollar. This 101.40 level on the dollar has been a major, major support. This morning at 4 a.m., we cracked right under that level, and now as we speak, we're rejecting that. So that's sort of interesting to me. If the dollar sees some weakness today, do equities have a little bit of a reversal? I think this is worth watching today on the dollar. So keeping an eye on that. And then finally, Apple 160.50, big level that continues to hold. So that's our schedule. Let's go ahead and start out with the futures as we always do. So the big level in focus for me today is 13,000 on the Nasdaq. The 13,000 level on the Nasdaq has been pretty important. And as of this morning, it is showing rejections here. So this is going to be very key. So here's 13,000, right? These two wick rejections here. We have 13,000 here, right? We have 13,000 all right here and 13,000 here. Now, in the morning, right, this morning, if I go to the 15-minute chart, you guys can see that 13,000 is starting to turn into a little bit of a rejection point. So you can see these previous lows on Monday, this previous low yesterday before breaking down 13,000 at this level. And you can see this morning we are struggling to get over that 13K. So in my eyes, right, I don't want to be long here until we get above 13K. Yes, we do have this 12,950 demand down here, which you could look to go long off of, but I would feel more confident seeing a hold above 13 for maybe a push into the 13.1. So I am definitely going to be eyes on this 13,000 level today. You can clearly see the rejections here, triple top rejection this morning. This is previous lows into rejections. I really don't want to be long into that level, right? So let's see what 13,000 does today. We'll see if PPI and jobless claims have any say, in the technicals here in about 19 minutes. So we'll see if there's any movement on that economic news. But as of right now, as we speak, that 13,000 level looks pretty heavy. So be careful of that 13K today. If you're seeing us trade up towards 13K, if you're starting to see this, careful on the longs, right? This could definitely reject again. Careful on the longs if the Nasdaq's up towards that 13K. You could look to short it again, right? If we get a little pop here into 13 and you start to reject again, could be a nice fade again. So a lot of focus for me on 13,000 today. That is very, very key. And then the downside, if we go to the hourly chart, the downside demand really steps up between this 12,950 and it looks like this 12,900. So this 50-point range is sort of what I'm watching to see for demand. The 12,950 was this previous low right here. So if I zoom in, if I go to the 30-minute chart, and I zoom into just the last few days, 12,950 was the wick low here on Thursday of last week. The low of this candle was 12,953. And you can see we're trying to maintain above that wick low here, 12,950. So 12,950 to 13,000 really seems like your 30-point range now. Don't want to short into yesterday's lows, right? That was around 12,925. So really for me to get clear downside, I think I'm going to wait for the 12,900 break. I think that's probably where you really get clear and slippery. So just be careful of, if I go to the hourly chart again, just be careful of these previous highs over here, right? You guys can see all these previous highs, all in this 50-point range, all in here. Just be careful on the short side into these previous highs, anywhere between 12,950 and 12,900. So right now, I'm thinking 50-point range on the technicals on the Nasdaq until maybe we get the economic news, right? So previous high, previous high, previous high. You're holding that demand as of right now. However, right, we're not going to long off that demand. At least me personally, I'm not going to long off that demand until I see us get back over 13K, because this is a very clear rejection point as of right now, right? We can clearly see these previous lows have rejected in the pre-market. So 13K to 12,950 is really my watch as of right now, all right? On the ES, I want to go out to the daily chart on the ES and just sort of give everyone an overall look here when we zoom out, because I know, sometimes we get that tunnel vision on an intraday basis because the moves have been pretty violent intraday. Like yesterday's move was very violent intraday, and you would think, hey, this is breaking down some major levels, but the ES really has not gone anywhere. In the grand scheme of things, if you zoom out on the daily chart, the ES has literally gone nowhere for like a week and a half. We have traded within this 70-point range since March 31st. So for the first 13 days, obviously excluding weekends, we have traded within this 70-point range on the ES, and we are still holding above a pretty important 4,100 psychological level, right? This 4,100 level here, we are still trading above that 4,100. So, yeah, yesterday looked pretty bearish, right? That 4,170 rejection was very aggressive, but did we break anything major? I can't say that with confidence yet, right? I don't see us breaking anything major as of yet. Yes, it was very aggressive yesterday. Yes, it was like that little, you sort of smelt that panic a little bit, right? You're like, oh, this looks a little bit dangerous. But we definitely did not break anything major yet. So 4,100 is still important, right? We definitely can get a little bit blindsided in here by seeing these aggressive moves, right? Take this for example, right? This is a great example, just right here back in February of this year. These moves were extremely aggressive. Look how aggressive these days were. I mean, this is a 1.5 point. What is this? This is a 2% green day, followed by 2% red days, followed by 2% green days. And it wasn't until we broke below 4,100, that's when the real downside came in, right? So just be careful trying to guess here. It's still, you could still be like right here in this channel, and you could still see a 2% green day coming in here. It's very possible. There's nothing stopping the market from doing another one of these little channel low to channel high moves. So just keep that in mind, right? That's why I'm not swing trading anything in here, right? You don't really have much to go off of besides that 4,100 low, that 4,170 high. And for me, in my eyes, right, just sort of the way I think about this, the day that I swing trade something in this channel is the day that I'm going to be wrong in a major way, right? I don't want to swing trade anything here because I know just how it works. If I go long off the 4,100 demand, looking for that upside, I know that's going to be the day that the market's down 2% in the pre-market. I'm just not going to get myself involved in that. I'm going to stay away from the swing trades in a very clear channel. I'm not going to get involved in that. I'll scalp it intraday, right, in between this channel if I see it. But, yeah, just keep this in mind, guys, right? On the daily chart, when you have to zoom out sometimes. We are still above this 4,100. Nothing has broken. Yes, yesterday's move was aggressive, but we've seen these aggressive moves within a channel before. And it wasn't until we really broke that channel before the real move continued, right? So you can see it wasn't until we really started to slip under 4,100 here that the downside started to come in. So you can wait, right? You don't have to, you're not going to miss anything. Wait, just wait for it to break. You don't need to be the first one here. Let the people battle, right? Let everyone lose their money trading SPX, 0DTE in this area. And then once this thing really starts to move, then you strike, right? I like to say this in the chat. I want to be a vulture here, right? I don't want to be part of this battle. I want to be a vulture. I want to pick up the scraps, right? And then when that real move happens, you jump on it. So as of right now, if you've been struggling, I've had a pretty shitty last 2 days. Just haven't really made any money. And I can't say that I'm that upset about it, because when I look at the market, I can tell it's been pretty difficult, right? I can tell it's been really choppy. And I know that once this move actually happens, we're going to have some really nice plays and we're going to be able to take advantage of it. So keeping your losses small in this channel is going to pay off huge once this move actually happens. On the shorter term side of things, right, if we zoom into this channel, you guys can see this is the hourly chart and the sort of the movement within this channel. I think the key level to watch today is 41.35. That's been that was Tuesday's Tuesday's support. So you guys can see this 41.35. This was a previous support that is now turned into a rejection point. So you guys can see right here, previous support, previous rejections, little rejection here, previous support on Tuesday of this week. Yesterday we attempted to hold it, but ultimately failed. And now you can see, look at what's happening here in the pre-market. Rejections of 41.35. So today, you're watching 41.35, you're watching 4,100. I would not go long unless we are over 41.35 today. This is pretty much the same concept as the Nasdaq over 13,000. I would not go long into the Nasdaq 13,000. I would not go long into the ES 41.35. You would be going long into previous rejection points. That's just not really interesting, right? If we get a move over 35, if we hold above it, then you can have a good risk reward for maybe another push to the upside, right? But until that happens, be careful of this 41.35 supply. And then if we're moving lower today, you are not going to be a chaser on puts at demand, right? We're not going to chase puts into 4,100. Whoever chased puts here, lost. Whoever chased puts here, lost. Whoever chased puts here, lost. So why would you do it again? All right. So 4,100 demand, 41.35 supply. See if you can play that channel, right? If you can see a little rejection here, maybe you have a nice risk reward to the downside. If you see a nice support here at 4,100, maybe you can play, a nice risk reward to the upside. So channel trading still, we're in a channel, so we have to think like that. All right. If we're in a channel, we have to think channel trading. We have to respect the supply and demand. And that's really all we can do within a channel, right? So 41.35, 4,100, watch that supply, watch that demand today. All right. On the SPY, it's really the greater, the bigger channel is really like this 411 to 406. It seems like that's really the larger channel to watch. In between, you got this 409.50 area. This lines up with that 41.35. So like right in here, this 409.50, you guys can see previous rejections, support, rejections, support, and this morning rejections. So really, in the short term, if we were to align this with the 41.35, right? If we were to align this with the 41.35 and 4,100 on the SPY, that is 409.50 to around 406, right? You can see these supports here at 406. And you can see these rejections coming in at 409.50. So that would be my zone to watch today in the short term. See if we can get above 409.50. See if we get it below 406 for that sort of continuation. If not, you're looking for supply at these previous lows, and you're looking for demand at these 406 lows, right? So 409.50, 406. ES, 4135, 4100. Nasdaq, 13,000, 12,950. And we have been seeing a lot of weakness on the Nasdaq. Just keep that in mind when you trade something today. The Nasdaq is visibly weaker than the ES. The banks have been a little bit strong. So the banks and the energy sector seem to be holding up the S&P 500 a little bit more than the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq has definitely been sort of the weak one. Dow Jones, yeah, it's sort of rejecting this 33,860. You guys can see right here. This looks to be pretty important today. Let me go ahead and mark this as red, signify our supply. You guys can see right here, right? We have previous highs, previous lows right here, and then this little pre-market rejection. So on the Dow, if you are trading it today, 33,860, watch out for that. And then really that demand comes in down at that 33.5. You do have some demand stepping up at this little zone here. You guys can see this zone around this 33,750. So if I draw this out, you can see previous lows right here, right? Another demand bounce yesterday. You have some previous highs right here, and then you have some previous highs here and some previous lows here. So you can see that this little zone between 33,750, 33,725, this little 25-point range has had some importance. You can see the support that stepped in, right? So really the range on the Dow today looks to be around 33,860, 33.9 to around this 33,750, 33,725. We'll see if the Dow, which side that breaks today. Obviously, we'll see what the data does. Russell just rejected that 1,800 supply, right? Rejected that channel high here. You guys can see right here. If we go to the 4-hour chart, the Russell still sort of rejecting that 1,800. So that's really still the big watch on the Russell. All right. All right. So that's the futures. We'll look at it again here in about 5 minutes after the data is released. But let's take a few minutes and talk about Tesla. So I trade on the 2-minute chart, right? That's where I trade at. And yesterday we talked about this in the live stream. We said, watch out for this 191 supply. This could be a really nice supply rejection. So if we go to the 30-minute chart, this is Tesla yesterday right here. This big push, right? And you can see we came right back into these previous lows at 191 and we started to reject it, right? Right there, that 191 supply. Now, we were in the chat, right? We were saying, watch out for this 191, and it started to look really good. So if we go to the 2-minute chart, if I zoom over to Tesla, right, look at these two wicks that came in. The first 2 minutes of the market, you have these nasty wicks at 191, right? Nasty wick here, nasty wick here. That right there is exactly what I want to see, right? That is beautiful. That is exactly what I look for to get into my entries at supply, right? Some nasty, nasty wicks on the 2-minute chart. That is like gold right there because you know that there's sellers stacked up. Now, why did I hesitate to take this trade? I hesitated to take this trade because I had a game plan yesterday to not short if the market was above the previous day highs. This 4150 level. I told myself, do not short the market. Do not short anything if the ES is above previous day highs. And so the market opens, right? Right here, 9:30, right? This is market open on the ES. You starting to hold up, right? For the first 10 minutes, the ES was sort of holding up here. And it was still above my 4150 previous day high level. So I just couldn't get that confidence to short because I was concerned that the ES would hold that 4150 and push back to the upside into 4170, right? And even on this drop, I was still concerned about maybe a break and retest of 4150. I did not want to short into previous day highs. It's just something that I have trouble doing because I know that the market's above the previous high and I know it can turn into a support level. So I didn't take Tesla. And the reason I didn't take it is because of that ES. And, you know, it caused me to miss this, right? Because by the time the ES broke below 4150 yesterday, which was right around this 945 level, right around 945 time, by the time the ES broke 4150, look at where Tesla was, right? Tesla was already down, down huge. Tesla was already down 2%. And at that point, I was just like, fuck, man. I mean, I can't chase this now. So unfortunate, right? That's what happened to me yesterday. By the time we were getting that downside on the market, Tesla was gone, Nvidia was gone, AMD was straight down, and these wick rejections. I guess in hindsight, I could have just played it, right? I could have just trusted those wick rejections and said, hey, this looks really heavy here. We should be taking puts at this level. You've done this a lot in the past. But, that I focus on those futures so much that it just sort of, there was a little bit of a discrepancy there. But either way, I just wanted to share, what happened yesterday, why I missed this play, and give you a little bit of a idea about what's going on in my head at that time. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that makes some sense. All right. So today, right? Enough about yesterday. We got to focus on today. That's all we can do, right? All we can do is get back and focus on today, right? So 191, you guys can see that was our rejection yesterday. Downside, very strong downside. Back under the 188.50. Back under the 188.50, that was nice. So if we go to the 15-minute chart, you guys can see after getting under 191, after rejecting that, we even rejected the previous day highs, right? This 188.50, we rejected that as well. So 188.50 on the 5-minute chart, look at this, right? Look how clean this was. Really nice 188.50 rejections here as well, causing the next downside move. Now today, we find ourselves at this 180 demand. All right, you guys can see here, 180 demand. You have this little 180 demand area here, even though we did get that breakdown. And then 180 demand again. This is where we're moving off of as of now. But we have some data. So let's go ahead and check that out. Let's see how the data moves this market. Let's take a look at the ES here. This is the 1-hour chart, sort of zooming out, getting the whole picture here. Let's see what PPI is. Let's see what this move is. PPI jobless claims about to be released. And this is the ES hourly chart. Let's see what we look like here. Okay, you got yourself a little pop there into 41.35. Sort of dying off after that 41.35 touch. That's going to be a heavy, heavy rejection point today. Starting to show some. Are we over 13K? All right, so we're over 13K on the Nasdaq. Let me go to the Nasdaq here. Yeah, so we're trying to fight over 13K here on the Nasdaq, but it is still looks like it's struggling a little bit. We are getting over 13, so that's interesting. Keep an eye. So we're rejecting that 41.35 still. A little bit of a pop, but nothing major yet. Let me get the data pulled up. So PPI down 0.1% versus 0.3. So another good reading on the inflation readings. CPI was lower than expectations yesterday. PPI actually negative versus the expectation of being 0.3. So that's the month over month. Month over month was down. It actually decreased month over month versus an expectation of 0.3. So that's, PPI being negative versus a 0.3 expectation being, that's bullish, right? That's why you're seeing that initial pop. PPI year over year, 2.7 versus 3%, so lower than expectations as well. Jobless claims, 239 versus 232. So all the numbers this morning are on the bullish side. How that moves the market, that's a different story, right? The numbers were bullish yesterday. We rejected supply like a ton of bricks, right? So we went right into 41.70 yesterday off CPI and rejected like a ton of bricks. Numbers were still bullish, but we rejected supply. Same thing's happening potentially here. You have jobless claims higher than expectation, which is bullish. You have PPI lower than expectation, which is technically bullish, technically good for the current situation, right? The Federal Reserve wants more jobless claims. They want the jobs market to slow down, and they want inflation to slow down. So both of these things are aligning with what they want to happen. Does that make the market go up? That's another story, right? That's another story. So ES still rejecting 41.35. That's a very key level. You can still see that rejection coming in. And the Nasdaq is still struggling at 13K. So not much of a move here, to be quite honest. Not much of a move here. All right, you can see that 13K sort of really big wick right back into that 13K here. So big, big, big level. Let's see what happens at this 13,000. All right. So let's continue, I guess. What's heavier, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers? You can't trick me there. I did watch it. It's funny you bring that up because I watched. Oh, look at Tesla. I watched a video yesterday about dropping a brick or a bowling ball and a feather in a vacuum, right? And it's funny. They fall, obviously, because there's no air resistance. They fall at the same rate. So it's funny you bring that up. But anyways, Tesla, right? 184 to 180. That's your supply today. That's your demand today. You're trading right in the middle of it. And I'm not really fond of anything here. So I'm going to need to see Tesla either supply reject 184, move back to 180 for a demand bounce. Without that, right, without us trading at one of these lows or highs, I really don't have interest in Tesla today. So just be careful of trading Tesla in the middle of this channel. You're going to want to see us either up into that 184 or down into that 180 to try to see if we can play that reversal. All right? So keep an eye on those two levels today on Tesla. NVIDIA. So NVIDIA back at this major 264 level, right? Look at this 264 level on NVIDIA. This has been a very interesting, very major level. You've seen previous rejections here, previous rejections here. You've seen those rejections turn into demand, once again right here, once again right here, and once again right here. So every time NVIDIA has come down to 264, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, right? NVIDIA has bounced off that level. Does it happen again today? That's what you're going to be looking for. You can see NVIDIA is attempting to hold this 264 today, attempting to hold that demand. If it does, you might be able to see that push back into the 270s, right? That is possible if we do get a strong market. So I would just watch this 264 to 270 on NVIDIA today. If you do break under 264, if you start to see it reject, that could definitely lead to some slippery downside. You guys can see there's still this really big sort of void down here that is still very much possible to trade into, right? I still think that, this 250 area, even this 242 area is pretty enticing for a pullback, right? You might still need, you never retested this 242 level. And you guys know the market typically likes to retest those levels. After this breakout here, this is back on the 16th of March, we never retested. So it's still very possible, right? If we see a weak market, I still think that 242 is going to get tested at some point. So sort of keeping that in mind. But 264 is your immediate watch today. That's your immediate watch today, 264. All right? Yeah, we can take a look at AMD. AMD weak yesterday, right? Look at AMD out of the gates yesterday. This thing was just gone. It was just gone. And you just can't I mean, if you caught maybe this little rejection here, this little 94.80 rejection, that was really the last entry. It was about 2 minutes into market open. That was about your last entry to take. After that, it was just a straight down move. And then from that point, it was just flatline. So, yeah, AMD aggressive out of the gates yesterday. If we go to the hourly chart, I think what you're watching today, actually, let's go 30-minute. What you're watching today is what happens at 93, right? That's going to be your key watch. What happens at these previous highs here? What happens at these previous highs here? What happens at these previous lows? What happens at these previous lows, right? If we push back towards this 92.70, 93, do you start to see rejection step in, right? Or do you get back above? And do you turn this back into a support level for potential upside? I would watch the 93 level today again. It's been a pretty important level. day over day, right? Every day that we've seen an AMD trade, it's had some type of a reaction off 93. So look to see if it reacts there again. We already did SPY. All right, Microsoft. So if I zoom out on Microsoft, you guys are going to see the relative outperformance that we have seen here on Microsoft, right? Microsoft is still just sort of holding up. It really has not gone anywhere. So you can see these previous highs, previous highs, previous highs. As long as Microsoft is trading above these previous highs, it is not going to be able to be shorted, right? We can't short Microsoft if it is trading above these previous highs right here. You can see this clear flip from rejections to demand above 281. So it's been a little bit, it's been a little bit strong. I do not know what symbols they are on Schwab, Vern. They should be Nasdaq and ES. If they're not, you're going to have to use the SPY and QQQ possibly. So 281 rejections into demands. You can't short Microsoft until it's under this 281. But I just wanted to point out Microsoft because it has been a little bit stronger versus the rest. And it's still holding up here. So we'll see, right? We'll see if there is any movement here. Maybe a break of this little downtrend off of demand is possible, right? Just keep an eye on this 281. Keep an eye on this 281. It's been very important. This looks very similar to Meta, right? Look at Meta. Meta is still sort of uptrending here. Still very strong. Still outperformance versus the market. 212 continuing to hold. And this 217 continuing to reject. But even in yesterday's downside, right, if we look at yesterday's downside, was not very strong. All right, this is yesterday's price action. Pretty much just sideways with a downside market. Meta was just sort of chopping sideways all day. Really did not go anywhere in that downside market on the Nasdaq. So very interesting. Strong outperformance on Meta here. Watch 212, 217. Microsoft as well above 281. But overall, just wanted to point out some of those strong outperformers on the tech sector. Maybe that leads to something. Netflix, I don't know what happened to Netflix today, but it already did this break and retest. Really upset about, I was really eyeing this one actually. You guys can see right here, this 330 level. If I go to the 4-hour chart, you're going to see how important this is. Here's your 4-hour chart, and this sort of looks like a bull flag to me as of right now, right? You're starting to see a little bull flag action here on Netflix. You have this previous high here. 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 Netflix pushed up into supply. That 345, 350 has sort of slowly pulled back on some pretty low volume. If we look down here, right, some pretty low volume down there, and has started to flag here a little bit. So holding that 330 demand pretty nicely. If Netflix sort of gets some movement here, right, if we start breaking, up above this downtrend, up above this 345, this could continue out of this little flag. So definitely going to watch this one. Interesting, right? Interesting flag, interesting hold of the 330 retest. Could be an interesting watch, right? I would monitor it. I would rather get in closer to 330, to be quite honest. So it's already sort of gone, right? I don't really know if I like this anymore for an intraday trade, being that it's already up $8 in the pre-market. But keep an eye on that 345, 350 up there. All right, I want to go over the XLF. I want to go over some banks. You do have banks, some bank earnings tomorrow, so I'm not going to get too in-depth here because obviously earnings are going to matter and technicals will be invalidated potentially. But just wanted to point out the XLF. You're starting to get a little bit of upside here off this demand. And really the one that I wanted to focus on was Goldman Sachs. This is still a very interesting trade for me. Goldman Sachs is trading into this low volume area, which we've talked about. All right, if I go to the volume profile, you are going to see that there's a low area, a little gap in volume here, right? Between this, right around this 330 to around this 340, you start to see this decline in volume here, this little gap. And that is just sort of what you see here on the chart, right? You see this pretty much straight up and straight down move. I think you can target it, right? I think you can target it back up into this 240. It might happen tomorrow in the pre-market. if bank earnings are good, right? If JP Morgan reports good, if some of these banks report good, obviously I don't know if that's going to happen, but that could be sort of the move that happens overnight and through this little gap. But yeah, just wanted to point this out. That's a very interesting low volume gap here on GS. It is now holding above that 326.50 that we've talked about. So it could be, that trade could be on, right? You can see yesterday we maintained above this 326.50. Nice maintain above this previous supply, right? We're sort of building above it. So this trade could be on, right? And it could definitely start to see some upside today. You can see right now in the pre-market, we are starting to push a little bit. So interesting up towards that 340 might be something I watch today. Dollar. All right. Wanted to point out this dollar weakness. So even the dollar is weak even here after PPI and jobless claims. You can see this dollar 101.40. This is a very big level on the dollar. If I go to the weekly chart, if I look at this 101.40, right? Look how important this weekly chart 101.40 is, guys. It's a pretty serious level on the dollar. This is the neckline of this little head and shoulder, right? You can see a little head and shoulder formation potentially. You could call this like the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder here. And this is your neckline, right? 101.40. And you're breaking it. And you're turning it into a rejection this morning too, right? Look at this exact rejection of 101.40 this morning. That is telling me that this level is important, right? That right there should speak to you and say, hey, okay, yeah, 101.40 is definitely important. Look at the perfect rejection of it in the pre-market. So typically, right, in a normal world, not in crazy world, but in a normal world, dollar weakness should lead to strong equities, right? That's in the normal world. I can't tell you for sure that we're going to see normal world today. But in a normal, correlated, in a normal reverse correlation, dollar weakness should lead to equity strength. But hey, we'll see what happens. You do have these lows around 100.82 you could watch out for to see if it bounces there. But that dollar breaks interesting, important, worth a watch, right? Worth a watch for sure. I think something to monitor. This breakdown this morning at 4 a.m. is definitely leading to some weakness here on the Dixie. So could definitely lead to some strength. It's very possible, right? That is very possible. Make sure to understand that. Apple, Apple is holding on for dear life here at this 160.56, and it actually looks like a pretty decent opportunity here if you're able to get over 162. You guys can see these previous highs are really trying to hold on here, right? You can see all these previous highs are really attempting to hold on here around this 160.50, and if you get a little downtrend break here, right, this could be interesting. All right, so let's see. 160.50, really strong demand has held, right? Rejection into demand. And if you do get this little downtrend break, if you do get a little market upside, Apple is in an interesting spot here. So worth a watch, right? Risk reward here, whether you're right or wrong at this point, a risk reward here makes sense, right? You stop out, right? This is your risk reward. Let's say you go long Apple. You say, hey, I like Apple. I want to see it stay over 160, right? Let's say I like Apple. I want to see it stay over 160. That's my idea. So I'm putting myself in about a 1.5 amount of risk, right? I want to see over 160. If we're over that level, I still like that demand hold, right? And this is my risk. My reward on this type of play is maybe I see a really nice downtrend break and I see some bullish action here, maybe back into the 165s, maybe even back into the highs of 167. Obviously, this is a long-term idea, right? It's not going to happen overnight, but the risk reward makes sense, right? If you were to take this trade, I would not think you're a stupid person. You're a bad trader. It makes some risk reward sense. You stop under 160, you're risking about a 1.5. If you can get some Nasdaq strength, to help you out with this trade idea, you're risking, 1.5 to make maybe 4.5, 5 points. It's a decent idea. Is this a trade I would take in the current market environment? It's speculative because the market's pretty sideways. The Nasdaq's been a little shaky. So I'm not so sure you have the market in your favor here. on this type of idea, but just wanted to sort of walk you through sort of how I would look at this if you were to take something like this. If you did want to trade the 160 retest, I wouldn't think, even if you lose on this type of trade, you can't get upset about it. It's a nice idea. It's a nice risk reward. Yeah, you have this little channel here, right? You can see that little channel. You probably want to wait for that channel to break, right? You probably want to see a little bit more confirmation before going long, but hey, up to you, right? Just here to give you some ideas. Doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean they're wrong. Just here to share, how I think about things on the market. All right, so let's jump into the tickers that you guys want to look at today. If you guys could take a second, we got 1,700 people here. We were able to hit that 1,000 like goal yesterday. If we could hit that again, that would be great. If you guys could help me out by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel. Someone wrote no earnings plays here. Who did this? Who did this? Great job. No earnings plays. Amazon, Google, Baba, and Home Depot. Let's go ahead and jump over those look at those real quick, and then let's get the hell out of here. All right. Press that like button if you guys could. Help me out with the streams. Help me continue to grow them. I would much appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. All right, here comes Amazon. So Amazon. Yeah, Amazon back under 100. Don't like it. Amazon's been really weak. I mean, Amazon's been sort of a disaster, honestly. Really has not seen any strength with this market. I would not short into this like 97 though, right? You can see that 97 demand has sort of stepped in. So it's really now in a channel between like 97 and 100. So 97 demand, 100 supply. That's really what I'd watch. But just understand that Amazon's been really weak. This Google 4 hour is actually really interesting here, right? If you can hold this this 104 area, this is actually still pretty nice on Google, right? Google, little slow pullback, nothing major. Little channel to the downside, right? Little channel to the downside. If you hold that 104 demand, this could definitely still look good on a strong market, right? I still like this. So, yeah, see what that 104 demand does. Still interesting there on that 4 hour chart, too. Baba, Baba just gaps up and down, guys. If you guys see a gap up on Baba, do not take any importance from it. Baba gap ups, it gaps every day, right? It gaps because it trades on the Asian market. The Asian market moves, and then it gaps up. These don't mean anything. I'm not even going to look at it. I never trade Baba. It's a disaster to trade. You're basically going to try to guess, when Baba gaps up. It's just a disaster. Home Depot, yeah, Home Depot's just stuck in a range. It's just stuck between 280 and 300, right? I would look to do supply rejections at 300, demand at 278. Where is Home Depot right now? Where is Home Depot right now? It's at the 50% retracement. You're basically guessing here, right? This is a total guess. I have no idea what happens at the 50% of the channel mark, right? I can guess what happens here. I can have risk reward at what happens here, but I cannot trade Home Depot if it is right in the middle of a channel. You have no edge, right? There is no edge here. Your edge is a 1-to-1 trade, and you're just hopefully flipping a coin that it goes up or it goes down, right? You have no edge here. You can short at the supply because you have good risk reward. You can long at the demand because you have good risk reward. Besides that, it's just a disaster, and stay away from it. All right? Thank you guys again for being here. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Before you head out, if you could smash that like button. Don't just press it, smash it. Let's get to 1,000 likes. I hope you guys have a good day today. Watch that 13,000 on NQ. Watch that 4135 on ES. That is your main watch today. 13K NQ, 4135 ES. Have those on your charts. If we're holding above those levels, be careful on the shorts. If we're below those levels, be careful on the longs. Those levels will attempt to guide your day, right? It's not going to be perfect, but these levels will guide your day. So watch out for those. 13K NQ, 4135 ES. All right? Thank you guys again for being here. And good luck. Have a great day. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.